I didn't really plan on doing no video today. Oh my God, I'm so motherfucking ready to be around some sun, boy. I'm grateful, but fuck. Shit. Oh my God, you want to talk about? Oh my God. Bro, y'all know. Oh my God, this shit like a fire burning my ass. That's why I go so like, it's gonna be so rewarding, I know. Oh my God, it's getting so frustrating or just when you're like in the process of like creating a life that you know you deserve and so forth. So, anywho, yeah, I'm chilling here. But anywho, man, I had something come, this clarity that come to me about, I feel like one of the most, let's give honor to the source of the creator, the most high for making this possible, but make this brief video, but, bro, I feel like one of my greatest lessons that I'm learning, and I will have to share with the youth and everybody right now. I say especially to me, but I still will share like an encouraging message to, you're gonna have moments where, seasons, moments in life, your journey, where you're gonna want shit to happen like immediately. But when I say shit happen in divine timing, man, sometimes we want something right then and there, and then sometimes, and we get it, we can get it. And I ask myself like, cause you know, I say I've been straddling the fence between like, especially around finances. It's like been a big thing for me because I start to learn the importance of like, as I start to learn more about my mother womb, it also start exposing more of my my patterns with money. You know, if you don't already know, like, oh, let's give honor to the ancestors. No. But if you don't already know, like, part of breaking generational cycles and chains, like, bro, like that comes with a lot of learning, not taking a lot of shit serious, but a lot of like, I want to live this life, I want to do these things, but then that consists of this amount of money or this amount of this and this amount of that. You know, I slowly want to tell myself, like, I just really want to focus on creating a world around the fact of like, or my world, where, you know, it's like returns to that type of barter and trade type thing. And what I mean by that, where in a way to like, you trade services for services. And that's something I've done before, you know, that has, you know, like collaborating with people. And the reason why that's so vital is because outside of finances, which is energy first, because you're putting your energy towards whatever you're creating and so forth. And that's an exchange of energy there. I don't know what the fuck I'm trying to do with my hair, but there's an exchange of energy there. So you gotta realize that emotional, spiritual, mental, all of that is a form of currency, like energy currency, spiritual. So, like, I feel like that would change the world so much so it is, and what I feel like we're returning to, because, like, you know, if someone wants me to speak somewhere, you know, I may want, it won't just consist of finances, you know, sometimes like finances isn't just enough for someone, especially if they have to travel. And you know, I know people like, oh, it covers travels and stuff like that, but I mean like other things that can be in exchange for that. Like, just different ideas, like different services, you know. But that's just how my mind and how things are. But where I was getting it again, like I was speaking on the finances thing, and like um, what one of my greatest lessons is right now, I realize in building your own table empire, in building and planting seeds, in creating a life that you are knowing that you're worthy of, and having to go through the emotions. I spoke with someone recently about because everyone's different on their approach, and everyone like my ambition is out of this world, or my go-getter aspect is like out of this world. Like I carry a lot of fire energy or creative energy, water, like in my natal chart. If you don't follow that, that's cool. But and with this, like a lot of my vices, one thing I was telling someone I had to really overcome was like the spirit of lust. And lust can be like desires, but also like for me, it's like you can say it's kind of wrapped in one, but again, that can be straddling the fence for a lot of people because lust in itself, or even your desires, you can desire your life and so forth. And I feel like with that, what me having going on like an abstinence or abstaining from sex a few years ago, and naturally know how to get into it now, is where the discipline comes in. It's just like a child eating candy, and then they get to that level of awareness of like how much it has affected their gums or teeth and so forth. So again, it's like the awareness around balance. For me, even learning through having to learn a lot of stuff on my own, or even not just through experiences, of course, and through connections, because I was expressing to someone again, like, you can be brought into spaces and communities in a different realm of things just for a fire to be lit up under your ass and be like, okay, you ready? Okay, you want this life? You desire it? And man, like, oh my gosh. It is, for me, like, just being real and raw. It has been like, boy, it's rough. It's rough, boy. It's rough, it's rough, like, I love this charm, by the way. It's been rough, like, it's been so rough. And rough in the sense of, like, you have to have discipline. Like I said, I was talking to someone, and, you connect with people, and they were speaking about how, like, they wanted to do a children's book. And this is something that I'm like, I know I'm going to do. I already have the ideas and so forth. There's nothing can stop me. Like, I'm unstoppable. But just with that, they were speaking about how, like, they lived in fear. And I also learned, like, how a lot of people, or some people I've learned through the world, can have a lot of material things or have a lot of things available, the resources and everything. And what makes someone such as myself different, or anyone else, that will make you like the uniqueness of who you are, is how you're able to create from what you have, or make do with what you have. And I noticed that even in relationships and connections that I've had, where you had someone grow up in around, let's say, like a daddy's money, or people who grew up in certain things, and it's not to knock what they grew up in, their ambition, their hunger, their approach to life, their intentions will be completely different than someone who had to build from where they are, break generational cycles, break chains, do certain things that involves a spirit, a warrior spirit, And then even with that warrior spirit, you still have vices, you still have things that you have to navigate through. You have to go through spiritual warfare, like of, again, having those vices of not doing things similarly to what other people would have done, and the courage it takes to face the fear of, like, I can do this, but then when you get to it, like, bro, it's a difference between like creating a product and then becoming a product of your environment. And what I say by that is like that can be very complex or very like wildly stretched to a lot of people who have been given things in life and not so much put in the work for it. And I've talked about like imposter syndrome or one of those syndromes where you don't feel, you can research this, it's like when you don't feel worthy of what you've accomplished. And then like even the other night, like I said, I met this person. I had to go out, on the town, and this is how like I learn. I go connect with people. I have to put myself out there because too much, I feel like isolation or seclusion, it's like you're keeping yourself away from human interaction, or I'm not saying don't protect yourself, but it's like keeping yourself from the fact that you had to have that conversation for the inspiration to come. You had to have that exchange. Like I went out, for instance, and I went to a spot, and it's funny because the name of the spot was significant. I'm getting excited about it because the name was significant. Where it was positioned was significant. Where I had to drive through to get there was significant because of the fact it was showing me even how much I don't want to go through places where I used to because it reminds me of a memory. That's the beauty of even the reminder to show you to be excited for what's to come, because you had to, don't push that memory or that emotion away. I had to go through that. Because even trying to go there, I missed my exit like 2 times. And then the funny thing about it is like the way I wanted to go, I would have gotten there quicker, but I missed like 2 exits, and it brought me around to a place where I had just like transitioned from, I had just got away from like a lot of these things, like, and that place was like, the shelter. And it was like, I had to realize like, okay, I'm not going back to this place. I'm just going through this way to get to where I'm going. And even with that, like I had to, one thing about life, it's like honoring the memories and emotions that come up and embracing it, because what happens is, this is why I feel like a lot of people, through experience fall short or get too consumed in the emotion or what they want to ignore, is that it's just like moving away from your old place of residence or somewhere, and there wasn't so much of the best memories. But those memories had to happen for you to be who you are, that growth. And so that was something, again, like me realizing like, bro, I can reflect on that place. And if you've been following me or watching or observing, at that place, at that shelter experience, I read, how many was it? Was it 6? I believe it was 6 books within a few months span, like the months I was there, and again, going through, realizing that even in those moments, I had to restore so much of my dignity, my self-respect, my confidence. I had to go through a lot of what I recognize now is like depression. I had to create a lot of content or face a lot of emotions that were repressed, fight through vices and patterns and so forth. And so now I have a lighter heart towards things, because I'm like, okay, stepping out, because again, along your journey, you want to learn how to still celebrate yourself. the inner child still wants to express itself. The inner you, your self-expression, like it's okay to celebrate because we can become so mind boggled, is that the word, or overwhelmed with feeling like we have to accomplish and do this and do this and rush and rush and rush. But that experience, even in there, was bringing things full circle. Like, oh my gosh, I had someone, like, when I was in there, I would just, it's like stepping back out, like, into the world. Great atmosphere, but I also had one thing, like, if you're sensitive to energy and certain things, you start to realize, like, bro, why am I here? Great vibe, beautiful people, and so forth. But I was just like, what the fuck is going on? And so with that, I was just telling myself, like, okay, what does this teach me? What am I here to learn? Not trying to overthink it too much, but I still socialized, met people. I had one person come up and, like, I had my hair similarly to this, but come up and trying to converse. If you know from being out in the club scene or bar scene or whatever it is, social, trying to socialize and stuff, people have this weird thing about them, how, like, if you look any type of erotic or, like, stand out in any way, some people have this way of trying to, like, come and feel like they have to bump you, talk to you, exchange. It's so weird. It's like little kids sometimes to me, but it was fucking hilarious. I had one woman, like, she bumped me. It's like she knew what she was doing. I was like, you did that on purpose. Somehow we start talking, but she ended up reaching and touching my hair. I was like, yo, don't do that. And things like that was like showing me, this is why the fuck I don't go out in certain places. I try to make this relatable, especially for people that are like 20, 30-ish, 40-ish. But again, great atmosphere. But I just start to realize, like, in those spaces, like, again, my mind's like, okay, vibe out, be patient, because it's like you're like a little boy, like it's like trying to ride a bike again. Like, okay, you don't got to drink, you don't got to do nothing, just vibe out, enjoy yourself, meet people and so forth. But, after that, it was just awkward how, like, somebody thinking they can just be open to touching your hair or doing something. I'm like, yo, you bugging, chill out. Even though it still turned into a great experience, connecting with new people and so forth. And overall, sometimes we just gotta go in life with lightheartedness, but still be discerning, because you could just feel people's intentions in certain places. Like I'm like this person. Like, I sit and see who wants all the attention, who's trying to get all the attention, what's their focus, and, like, what are you doing, and so many different things to where I'm like, yo, chill out. Like, it's funny. Like I said, I'm just reading energy while I'm in there. I don't try to. I just observe more. Like I said, it's just me. Great vibe, great turnout. Met a great individual. When you connect with people, it's like, again, the lessons in even learning, like, again, one of my things, if you've been watching me, following me, as a man or as a human being, or experiencing things like growing up in society where, having been affected by, being exposed to things young can affect how you're opening yourself up or connecting to people. And now I realize, like, a lot of that stuff had to happen because of boundaries, being very intentional now with a lot of things. And again, like, one of my greatest things now, like I said, is building slowly, like planting seeds and watching your seeds grow is even more amazing. And one thing I'm saying, like, what's so important about this is like not so much being so focused on the financial aspect as some would be because of society and the microwave of society, but it's almost like the slow burn of like an incense, or the planting the seed type thing with life and watching it grow. Such as like, again, I met a person who was, connected, and they were, we were talking about a children's book and how they were, how they feared, like they read it, they wrote the book, I believe, and then how like they didn't, I guess they didn't have an illustrator or have it illustrated and so forth. And so you just never know how stepping out, and even though your intentions or your mindset isn't the same as it would be, like again, me, normally when I used to go out, my mindset would be focused on like, who wants me, or how could I connect, or just jumping right into things relationally, if that's a word, or jumping into sex, or just jumping into things with no awareness around like building. Because again, being affected by things growing up, we were exposed to a lot of things to feel like we're like, what I see in society now is like you're seeing a collapse in people not ever knowing how to intentionally build relationships, partnerships with themselves. And when you don't have a healthy outlook on life or how to build that, it's going to show up in your day-to-day routines. It's going to show up in society. No matter if we don't want to say we're a part of it, we are a part of it because we have enabled it. And so, like, just again, from being introduced to a lot of things young, one of my greatest lessons I've learned is like how to not only build a healthy relationship with myself, but through sustaining and refraining from like sexual interactions or how I would approach things in the past, because again, having no sense of structure and direction, anything not just healthily, but rooted in truth and honesty and other things, then that resulted in how my life, in playing out through early 20s and 30s and so forth to now having that awareness of like, man, you got to approach life differently now, boy. But it's beautiful because I feel like with a lot of men's mindset and or women, especially who aren't or never had anything structural when it comes to something healthy or rooted in truth or authenticity or integrity, then eventually it doesn't matter if they come into money, have money in their family and so forth, it's going to peak. Whatever unhealed or unresolved is going to eventually be mirrored in their relationships, in their, even how they do business and so forth. And that's one thing, again, personally, I had to experience like, I'm not gonna at all say like all the business that I've done with people has been perfect. No, I've had incidents where like certain things due to my own inability to know how to manage this and not know how to manage my emotions or certain things, and then it blew up, or it basically came right back to the same result, no matter the person or no matter the living situation, to where I had to realize this is your behavior pattern or a learned behavior pattern or a pattern that you can no longer ignore. So again, with that, this is where a lot of the emotional intelligence or emotional security comes into building. Now I realize with the feminine energy or the feminine archetype, it's like you can have 1,000 seas along down a river, and that river, that feminine energy is like that water that, or the rain that pretty much waters that, this is a great analogy. So you have a river, but then you notice how you have, let's say that before the trees were there, so you have, let's say, plant seeds by this river, right? Now, the feminine energy, what nourishes us, what feeds us, what gives us, what's, the connection to source, all those things that come naturally and organically, that's always and will always be there, that flow of life. Now, that's something that we all have or has been flowing through us. Now, what creates, let's say when it rains and then those seeds begin to grow, every seed won't grow the same. Every seed won't receive its flowers or tree or whatever's planted won't won't blossom in the same season, due to weather conditions. That's life, due to unforeseen circumstances, unpredicted, unexpected events, things in life that naturally happen. And so, again, none of those plants are going to grow the same. That's the individual and uniqueness of, let's say, people, as those seeds. Now, everyone still is being watered. And see, this is that feminine archetype I speak about when it comes to energy in itself, of how we're all connected to this source of energy. So we're all being watered by this energy. We're all being fed, and will always be this almost like this infinite source of water. Now, what has corrupted that river and blocked certain things are things that want to control that flow and who it flows to. So what's also a message from this is that it's just like, having tap water and then the water that's like groundwater, or what do they call it? The septic tank thing, like when you have water from a well. Those who know about water sources, or water that comes from the mountain down through the mountains and so forth, that's not touched, that is, again, how systematically a lot of people have been poisoned, or, again, who receives what. That river is a representation of like the powers that used to be, or what sourced a lot of things to come into this world. And again, due to the capitalism control, a lot of stuff I can go into, but I'm not. It just shows again the importance of, again, the world will tell you how, or what has happened is how certain things are. So who's supposed to get what, rah. So the thing that we're returning to is to realize, like, this river, this source, no matter what illusion or what's been portrayed on the surface, you still have this connection. Now you have to ask yourself, what is keeping you from progressing or facing whatever fears of, let's say, being silent, speaking up, or removing those blockages, removing yourself, uprooting yourself, if even, and then to relocate, or I could go on and on. So given that analogy, after speaking to the person about the book thing, I find these conversations to be very inspiring, because I was already, some people come into your life to be a reminder of life, even though, to remind the children, like, it's especially a lot of us that are experiencing like the economic shift right now, and global family and so forth, which a lot of us know that there's a shift in power, which means at a point in time that can look like family dynamic, where people who are no different, there was a representation of people on different levels in the world and leadership who are corrupted in spirit, who don't have a light heart, who are not empathetic. That energy is the same, who wants to control. And, going back to the analogy of the river, it's like the flow of things is like, again, I know of people in the family who wanted to control, to see who got what. And that's learned behavior pattern. Who got what, who gets what, and so forth. When you look at, again, things systematically, like when it comes to certain places getting food and healthier stuff, I could go on and on, y'all. But again, the representation of how it can look in the family, like the false sense of leadership, is how some people like have this corrupt spirit, or have this whatever envious or manipulative things that they haven't faced inwardly. And I don't see them no differently than a corporation or a business who have the same type of leadership, who don't know how to manage themselves or don't have empathy when it comes to the mistreatment, when certain things, how family dynamic, again, energetically looking at this, like, not, to protect their business, they'll protect the abuser or the people who are abusing their power. There's no difference in the family dynamic. People abusing their power, people abusing certain things, and, again, a representation of the wounded masculine. So again, like, I know of people who were do these things, and again, the thing about staying the course and traveling a path, traveling down a road least paved is what they call it, or least traveled, is that it's going to ask of you a version of you that to let go of not only what was familiar to the people who travel down the path that may have, which eventually they don't realize that what was very familiar in tradition and family structure. And then now you're doing something that exposes from a distance, you're able to see like the loopholes, the cracks in the foundations, and so forth and so forth. And now in your building, whatever you're creating, it's going to be a little slower. It's going to take a little different effort, a different approach. It's not going to look like anything what they've done. And even through this process, we can even be kind of like heartbreaking or even like gut-wrenching at times for me and frustrated, is that you can sometimes feel like, oh, I wish I had that support. But then think about the support that people are getting in those dynamics. It's not genuine. So now you're going to realize and get clarity like, dang, their foundations are crumbling because it's not built on authenticity. It's not built on love. It's not built on truth and so forth. It was never created. It was created, but it was created not to stand the test of time, no matter how much delusion people want to live in and keep telling themselves that. So this is where, again, the shift in power and leadership. Your form of leadership for a lot of you is to go down that path where you can see people want to get things quick and fast and so forth, but there's no substance in it. Their product of what they're producing is just as much as a poison to them and then those around them. So with that, sometimes people are so distracted by what the fact that they assume that is good for them that too much of it eventually harms themselves and everyone's around them. So I say that to say this, it's like, when you are called to build something completely unfamiliar, it's going to add some different versions that are going to be uncomfortable. If it's going to be even new, it's going to seem like nothing, and sometimes it's working out, but everything is. That's the divine timing of a lot of stuff. I didn't want to believe that certain people had to leave, to be removed. But then I started to realize, like, the vibe, I was trusting the vibe, my intuition was correct. I didn't want to accept sometimes a season of how certain people were just supposed to be there. That conversation was just supposed to be for that night. That amount of months, sometimes even knowing like it wasn't even supposed to be nothing sexually. It wasn't even supposed to go that far. And you reflect on these things, like, again, for me personally, like, one of my greatest things, I'm like, if you're going to build and learn to create something, you probably hear this a lot, like, well, you're not going to be able to hang around the same people, you're not going to be able, the uncomfortability is learning to alchemize the fact of the parts of you never leave you that it seems like you walked away from. No, they're still there. It's the discipline and the balance that you have to be persistent in. And even with the consistency of knowing that even though this isn't showing up here, but I know I planted the seed. That's the faith. Even though this support isn't coming from here, some of you will end up becoming the first, let's say, genuine millionaire or a person who will build something that cannot be touched by those who are not in the same aligned with it, basically, or in the same frequency of that. And that's what a process, again, I also learned it doesn't have to be painful. I don't have to be like, emotions are going to come up, of course, because it's parts of you you're still learning. It's layers of you that I realized, like, that's what makes the process even more enjoyable and also even more exciting. It's because once you get through those, what seems those dark moments where you didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, or it seemed like where you were just called to get to know you more, it gets even more enjoyable, excited to connect with people, meet people, and realize, like, I can accept, like, this is showing me I don't have to display the same behavior patterns as I would before. I recognize now that this person, due to doing the inner work and building those boundaries, I realize, like, you know what, I can choose now with taking back my authority from having to go through what I experienced. I don't have to say yes to this. I don't have to say anything. Like I said, so many layers to this to where I'll have to create another part 2 or something. But it's so many layers to this to where it really gets more exciting, because that inner child that wanted to be pushed down and so many people wanted to dim the light of your essence, it gets even more excited that you realize, like, they never could. They tried, but they never could succeed in literally keeping you away from what it is that you're here and destined to do. So again, that process, knowing that in moments you don't have to force, you just allow. In moments you're gonna fuck up. It's gonna seem like, it seems like you do, but in reality, it's like you're just learning like a child, keeping that innocence intact. And so with that, it becomes even more like amazing to where I'm like, oh, I don't have to have no attachment to this. I don't have to just assume that, always focus on like the outcome. The outcome is going to be whatever it is, especially if my intentions are pure from however I initiated. So just know, during certain process, like, value the seasons of knowing when to slow down, knowing when to rest, knowing when to put in the work. I don't even like to say the word work. Knowing what it is to use that creative force, or use that your abilities to honor. Or you honor now. That's how I know it's time to go. Honor that which feels good, feels like euphoria, almost like euphoria. You know how that child gets excited about just the fact of like being able to do something, the beauty in that, knowing that they just have this joy. That's something that I realized, like, it's been a beauty to reconnect to the essence of all of that. It's like, I get excited to do this now. I'm able to do this. No excuses. This is like trying, like look at it playfully. Like, you know what? I'm gonna draw on this wall today. I know it may be consequences and stuff, but if you look at a child, it's discipline. It's a balance. You'll be able to know the balance. I mean, where the divine intervention comes in and be like, okay, now this is enough. Okay, I'm all right. That's just my little spiel. Y'all take care of yourself. Peace and bliss. Shalom.